Hello and welcome, JBA fans. I'm your host, King L5, and today I'm bringing you the finals of JBA Season 3 versus Kyle and his Weschester Weavile, although he does have a Sneasel, just the little brother of the mascot. But anyways, this is a game. Got the champion versus the champion of Season 1 and Season 2. I was the champion of Season 2, him of Season 1, and Season 3. We're going to be clashing once again. He defeated me in finals Season 1, but yeah. So I'm definitely looking for my revenge in this game. And yeah, so I'm pretty proud of this team that I prepped. It does have some weaknesses, but they're not huge, and I can definitely play around them. So anyways, I do have the Habanberry Kyurem, which had an excellent matchup versus his team. It checks a +1 Zard with my defensive investment. I actually have a lot of defense. 0 HP, but 228 defense EVs. What that does is it allows me to live a max attack Jolly +1 Flare Blitz if he does somehow predict the Habanberry and just go straight for the Flare Blitz. I am able to live that at full, does 99.7% maximum. So that's really nice. It is one of my checks to a +1 Zard. I have multiple of those on my team. But yeah, that's the first one. It also is able to tank a hit from his Noivern, which he's been bringing a lot. So I was kind of expecting him to bring that, but he did not. So Habanberry not being quite as useful as it might have been, but it's still useful for the Zard potentially. And I have 4 attacks, just Ice Beam, Draco, Hidden Power Fire, and Earth Power, which just hits his entire team really hard. I guess I could have taken out Hidden Power Fire and put on Toxic for the Cresselia in hindsight, but I'm pretty happy with my set, as Hidden Power Fire I think hit something important. Might have been Fortress or something like that. Yeah, I think it was Fortress. Was that on his team? I don't even know. I'm just... Anyways, moving on, I have the Choice Banded Azumarill, as it does a lot of work versus his team. I have the moveset of Waterfall, Aqua Jet, Play Rough, and Facade, as I feel like one of his best ways of dealing with Azumarill is potentially burning it with a bulky Zard or something like that, or just like Toxicking it with the Mana Buzz on the switch in or something like that. But anyways, I am rocking the Facade, and that's going to be pretty nice tech if he does status me, as it is slightly stronger than Waterfall, and it also doesn't miss like Play Rough. Yeah, it's just really nice neutral coverage versus an entire team. I think on his entire roster he had maybe 1 resist to Facade, and he didn't bring it, so that's really good for me. Next up I have my Mega Pidgeot, and when I was prepping I noticed that the combination of Pidgeot plus Dugtrio just completely destroys his entire wall core. So, like, the only thing he really has for it is Spadef Mana Buzz and Spadef Cresselia, and he's probably not going to bring both, so I only really have to break one of those for Mega Pidgeot to put in a huge amount of work. And as you can see, he has 1 flying resist that gets destroyed by Dougie, which is going to be Lantern. So the idea behind these 2 Pokemon is Pidgeot, which is actually Roost, Defog, Hurricane, U-Turn, and I remember, yes, it was for Fortress. I have enough defense investment so that Gyro Ball does not 2-hit KO me at all, and I can stall him out and always get a Defog off, because having rocks off the field is very important, as it allows my Kyurem to check his Zard at +1, and I don't like taking Stealth Rocks damage if I don't have to, especially on Azumarill, Mega Pidgeot himself, and Chandelure, all being pretty weak to Stealth Rocks. Azumarill because I don't want to be taking a lot of damage, as it is a pretty nice defensive check to Sneasel, as well as the Charizard X, as it takes a hit from both its stabs. And yeah, so Roost, Defog, Hurricane just hits his team incredibly hard, and U-Turn, if I U-turn on any of his flying resists, I just trap it with Dugtrio and it's gone, and now he has no flying resist, so that's pretty cool. Speaking of Dugtrio, I'm bringing Choice Scarf this week with the moveset of Earthquake, Aerial Ace, I believe Stone Edge, and Memento. Memento is just so I can potentially like weaken a Sneasel or Virizion, well, not Virizion because I would aerial ace that, but if I wanted to weaken Sneasel so like, I can live a hit with something else, I'm just kind of making up scenarios here because Memento is kind of just a fourth move that was thrown on there because I didn't really need anything else, but it might be nice. Probably not going to use it. Spoiler, I don't. But yeah, Scarf Dougie also outspeeds a Charizard X at +1, even if I am Adamant and he's Jolly, which I am Adamant nature on this thing, just to secure the KO versus Lantern and all those things after U-turn. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Dugtrio. Aerial Ace for the Virizion, I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah. Next up is going to be my Miltank, as he did have a Nidoking on his roster. I did want to bring a switch into that, and so I have Mixed Defense Miltank, which is EV to not get to it KO'd by any non-Life Orb Nidoking. Life Orb Nidoking is a big threat to my team as I don't have a switch in, but I can just trap it with Dugtrio after it gets a kill, and I can just sack one of my less useful Pokemon, which if he brought Nidoking over, say, the Sneasel, for example, I could just sack my I guess Azu, as Azu's main purpose of being there was to check the Sneasel along with Zard, I guess, but I have two other options for Zard, and just kind of hit hard. But I wouldn't need to hit hard if I can just eliminate the threats. Just going through random scenarios here, I'm just going to move on with that, but this is going to be my Stealth Rocker this week, and once Mana Buzz goes down, I can keep up my Stealth Rocks for the Zard, which is going to be super nice, as well as breaking a potential Sash on the Sneasel, because I know he does like using Sash Sneasel, although I think Life Orb is a little bit better just in general. He might bring it in this matchup. And yeah, I do also have the Toxic for the Cresselia, so I'm not setup fodder, and Body Slam just as general damage, because I don't want to run no attacks Miltank. That's kind of not the greatest idea. Anyways, moving on, I do have the Scarf Chandelure, which is my offensive check to Virizion if I somehow lose my Dugtrio, or if he has a Cobra Berry and is able to tank the Aerial Ace there. I wanted a backup Scarfer to take care of that. It is also my Sneasel offensive check, because it outspeeds and takes nothing from Ice Shard, KOs with a Flamethrower. And yeah, he doesn't really have the best fire resists. I mean, he has Zard and Lantern, what am I talking about, but the other four Pokemon get hit pretty hard by Chandelure's Fire Stab, and I'm not expecting Lantern to be sticking around very long because I do have the Dugtrio and the U-turn to get Dugtrio in on it, and again Dugtrio for the Zardex, as well as like 3 checks to that thing. So yeah, Scarf Chandelure I felt was a really nice solid bring on this matchup. You can see the 6 Pokemon he brought. I'm not going to list them up, but I am just going to get right into the battle. He leads off with his Cresselia, as I lead off with my Pidgeot, just wanting to get off the Mega first turn, and I go for the U-turn into my Miltank as he goes for the Toxic, which is not the best thing in the world because I do not, unfortunately, have Heal Bell on this thing. I'm going to go for a Toxic of my own as he reveals the sub, and this thing is a threat and a half. Like, honestly, this is the biggest threat to my team. He does have the Heal Bell and Lantern, but if he ever wants to go for the Heal Bell, he's basically going to lose his Lantern to my Dugtrio or just anything on my team. But yeah, I am fortunately able to get off a Toxic on the Cresselia before it gets to the substitute. If he subbed on my switch to Miltank, that would have been worst case scenario. I would basically have to sack a Pokemon to get my Miltank in on a Cresselia with no sub, and then he can just switch out, fearing the Toxic, of course. Or like not even that, because he has Heal Bell back. But I am basically forced to play around this Cresselia, always getting my Miltank in when he doesn't have a sub, and then I don't have another play other than clicking Toxic unless I really want to make a hard read, which is really risky. But yeah, I do get the Toxic off on Cresselia, and I'm just going to get up my Rocks this turn because it's pretty much free. I'm not going to be able to break the sub with Body Slam, so there's no point going for that, as he goes for the Psychic. And since he revealed Toxic and Psychic and Sub, realistically his last move is going to be Moonlight, so he's not a Calm Mind variant, which is good to know. He's still a big threat though. I'm going to go for the Milk Drink, keeping my Miltank healthy, as he's going to go for the Moonlight, revealing his full set. And now Toxic is wearing me down faster than it is him, so I'm going to switch out into my Pidgeot, as I can just stall this out with Roost on this thing as well. As he goes into his Mana Buzz, I go for the Hurricane, as it does 41%, and now he's going to go for the Defog. And I'm thinking this might be a roll, and if I got Min Roll and I can just knock this Mana Buzz out, that's a huge deal for my team. And so I'm just going to go for the Hurricane again, as it turns out the other one was a high roll, but I get a confusion and he hits himself, and that's super unfortunate. But that being said, his Mana Buzz set was knockoff U-turn Roost Defog, so he couldn't touch my Mega Pidgeot regardless. So I could always just spam Hurricane versus this thing, and as soon as I get a single confusion, he loses his Mana Buzz. So it was a losing battle for him regardless, and he doesn't have the best switch-ins to this thing, so he's kind of forced to stay in. If he goes Lantern, I just trap it with Dugtrio and it's gone. So yeah, I am able to knock out the Mana Buzz with the Pidgeot, and that's going to be really good for me, as he reveals the balloon on his Lantern. So I'm just going to U-turn to pop that balloon and go into my Kyurem, as since I have the 3 checks to Zardex, and this is looking to be a shorter game since I just broke one of his biggest walls, I'm not too worried about this thing taking damage. And he goes for the Scald, as I predicted, does nothing, and I'm able to Earth Power this thing as he goes for the Heal Bell. And that's a pretty big deal, as Cresselia is back, and I'm going to have to find some way to Toxic this again. So here, he could substitute, but if I go for Ice Beam, or I just go for Draco, then he can't sub, and then he's forced to Moonlight on my switch out into Miltank, and I can just get off another Toxic. So, in my opinion, subbing is not the correct play, so I'm going to go into my Miltank, as he does heal up with a Moonlight as expected. Now here, I can just go for the Toxic, and he's going to be forced to switch out, obviously, because the threat of Toxic is just so big, but I can't afford not to go for Toxic. As he goes on into Zard, and here I can tank any hit from this thing, as he reveals he's special with Flamethrower. So that means my Miltank walls this thing, and it's just not an offensive threat, so I can play a lot more recklessly with my Azumarill, with my Kyurem, and all that stuff. So that's really nice for me. And I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to get up my rocks. And now, I'm just going to heal up my Miltank with the Milk Drink as he sacks his Lantern to the rocks. Actually, no, I switch out. Why did I do that? I guess I didn't want to get whittled by a Zard. But anyways, he goes for a sub on my Azumarill. I'm going to go for the Waterfall and just spam this thing until he's in a position where he's forced to recover. He wasn't forced to there, which was why I didn't switch out, but he was just scouting damage as he sees some Choice Banded. He goes for the Toxic on my next Waterfall. At this point, going for a sub doesn't really make sense, so I'm going to switch out into my Miltank. And at this point, it's kind of 50-50. I can go for Toxic, and that would be really good for me if he stays in. But if he switches out and I go for Toxic, I basically lose my Miltank because it's at such a low HP. He goes Virizion, for example. I don't have the best switches to that thing, and I definitely don't want to stay in. So my Miltank would be forced to stay low, and then I can't switch into a Psychic plus Toxic damage. So that's mighty unfortunate if that happens, but I'm going to go for the Milk Drink, kind of avoiding that as he stays in. So does he go for the sub? If he does, I'm in a lot of trouble, and I'm basically forced to sack my Azumarill to this thing to make sure he's not behind a sub, but he goes for the Psychic. His reasoning for that was because he didn't want me Heal Belling for free. He really thought I had Heal Bell on this thing, but unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, I do not have Heal Bell, so yeah. I believe I just go for Milk Drink, trying to keep this thing as healthy as possible. As he goes for the Psychic, at this point, I'm kind of losing HP after this turn due to Psychic plus Toxic, so I'm forced to switch out as he goes for Psychic again into my Azumarill switching. So here I'm just going to go for the Facade as I'm Toxic and he doesn't have a normal resist, and it's my best move to hit him, so that's pretty cool. And now I switch out preserving the Aqua Jet because I felt like it might be a little useful, or more useful than my Miltank at this point, because Miltank gets 1v1 by Virizion, as well as Charizard can just like spam attacks at it, and since it's Toxic, well, both Pokemon are Toxic, they're both just wearing each other down, which isn't super beneficial for either of us in particular. And I already got the Toxic off on Cresselia, which is basically all Miltank had to do in this matchup, and get up rocks. So Miltank is looking pretty expendable at this point, but I'm going to go for the Milk Drink, I believe. Just keeping this healthy is better than not keeping it healthy, I guess. It's nice to have. But here, predicting the close combat, obviously I'm going to go into the Channeler as he bopped through the Stone Edge. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty nice play. Good thing I'm Scarf and can outspeed, right? But he actually reveals that he's Scarf as well. So he misses that Stone Edge, which sucks. However, what that would have allowed me to do is just trap him with Duck Trio, and Aerial Ace just kills him since it's 4 times effective, and I am adamant, but I am able to dodge that, and now I'm just going to preserve my Chandelure because I can. I'm going to go into my Duck Trio. The only way I lost my Duck Trio was double crit, which was not likely to happen, to be honest, and I'm just going to be able to Earthquake that thing. I didn't want to Aerial Ace because that gives Zard the potential free setup if he is just like mixed for some reason. I just didn't want Zard coming in for free. I'd rather have Crest coming in for free rather than Zard, so I just went for Earthquake. Now Sneasel comes in. I can just sack my Azumarill as Ice Shard is a 2-hit KO with toxic damage, and I don't really need it for anything else. I would like the Aqua Jet, but it's not completely the most important thing, because at this point Mega Pidgeot just comes in and cleans up with Hurricane. I get a crit, did not matter. He did reveal after the game that he was Focus Sash. If he was a Violite, it was a roll, but since he was Focus Sash, it was not. Since it is a Zard, I just knocked that out with a Hurricane, and now we have a Toxic Cresselia versus a Mega Pidgeot, which is doing 38%. He's not going to be able to stall me out, and even if he was, he's not going to be able to stall out my entire 5 Pokemon left. And I do get a crit Confused, just adding insult to injury, I guess. But yeah, that's going to be the game. It was a lot closer than the score which suggests. Sub Toxic Cresselia was a really smart bring on his part. I didn't really have a lot for it, but fortunately I was able to Toxic that thing with Miltank, and I was just able to wear it down that way. So that was a good game versus Kyle, and we are the Season 3 champions of the JBA. Now, obviously I was hyped for the championships and all that, but I'm even more hyped for using my Season 4 team because the draft has already happened, and I really like my team. I'm going to be doing a video of my draft analysis pretty soon, and so stay tuned for that, but that's going to be all for me, and I'll see you guys next time.